Hey guys, so today I'm beside Cascade Falls, which is in Mission, kind of close to Vancouver, and I wanted to review these awesome shoes that are kind of made for water and other things, as we will discuss. I've used this pair for about 2 summer seasons, and I've taken them to most of my water adventures, and I have kind of a good understanding of what they're good for, what they're not so good for. So this is kind of like a long-term review after 2 seasons, what they're excel at, what they're not so good at. So let's start at some positives. So first of all, using these shoes, you will never feel jagged rock edges on your feet anymore. So that is a lifesaver. You can easily jump from one rock to another rock without even worrying about anything. The other benefit is that they actually look quite nice. So these are the shoes that are made to go in the water. They're just as capable in the water as they are on the ground. They have very good traction. Your foot won't slip on most of the rocks. Even if they're wet, even if the rock's wet, they're pretty good, unless you have some slippery coverage on the rock itself. As you can see, there's some very fun looking laces. Some people hate them, some people love them. But the cool thing about them is that they're very easy to tighten, right? You just pull this little rubber piece and boom, they're as tight as you want it, or if you want to, you can loosen it up. Yes, those things are kind of dangling, but they're never get in the way unless you really tighten it. And I usually keep it pretty good, like the laces are stretchy, so it kind of holds onto your foot pretty good. The other benefit is they dry quite quickly, because if you look at the bottom, they actually have drainage holes right here. It lets the water drip out, which is very useful. The other cool thing about this particular model is that the back piece right here, it can fold in, and then you can kind of use your shoe as a slipper. And they stay on the foot pretty good, because they're, again, like these stretchy laces, they kind of tighten around your foot, doesn't let it come out. Right here, this thread, it's actually a map of Barcelona beach. So these are designed in Barcelona, as you can see right here, and this is kind of the beachy waves and the houses or something like that. So it's really, really cool design-wise. One other really cool thing about these shoes is that, you know, like when you're hiking around or exploring some parts, the problem is that you're kind of afraid to get your feet wet because they're going to get cold, or you're just going to have this kind of a wet shoe feel. These ones don't really have the wet shoe feel. I mean, of course, you can feel the wetness on it, but it doesn't feel like something annoying, something not nice, right? Like basically, when you're hiking and going around your, your day, whatever you're doing, sometimes you even want to get them wet because it cools you off on a really hot summer day. And that's pretty fun. Like, you're almost searching for little streams to cross or to explore. You can come up to waterfalls very easily compared to normal shoes that can't get wet, or you don't want to get them wet because they're gonna feel weird. These are really fun. It kind of takes your exploration mindset onto a whole new level. Another cool thing about these shoes is that they're styled in a kind of a cool, normal way. They kind of look like something that Vans would produce or some other popular brand, and that lets them basically be worn to just normal day-to-day things, right? You can wear them for a simple jog or something like getting groceries, and they're not gonna look really weird, like the shoes that we call water shoes. They usually are pretty ugly, and that's the biggest problem with those. These ones look kind of nice and cute, and for some people that don't know these are made to go in the water, they don't even know. They're not even gonna realize that, which is the awesome part about them. Now let's move on to some negative, because there are a few. Because this is kind of a very simple mesh at the top that's made, for the water to go through and for them to dry really nicely from the, the air blowing on them while you're hiking or while they're sitting at home. This mesh is not very durable. So as you can see, I got a hole on this shoe that's just kind of small, but I got an even bigger hole on the other shoe. Really, really giant slash over here. And the way these holes develop is because when you're stepping on the rock, sometimes your foot does get between 2 rocks, and this is the part that rubs against the rock beside it, and that's what creates this hole. There should be some kind of reinforcement over here, and there's none right now. I mean, on the other hand, even though this kind of mesh has disintegrated over time, right, from rubbing, the stitching and everything around the shoes is more or less fine, right? It's still kind of in place. Like, there's a couple parts where it might be starting to come out, but at the same time, it's, I don't know, could be just a fluke, because everywhere else it's pretty solid. And so the stitching itself, the glue itself that they used inside the shoe to attach it, is pretty good. The other negative is the sole on the inside. This sole right here, it's a little bit of like a silicone material or something like that, like a little rubber. This one I've added myself, and this is way more comfier than what they have on the inside. What they have on the inside is this weird foam insole that's basically not really thick, and it's very kind of tough, like on your foot, because these are meant to be worn without socks, right? This kind of goes on the bottom of your feet. And when I hiked for a little bit with just the sole in, I literally got blisters in like an hour of hiking, which is not very ideal. As you can see, these soles are also kind of disintegrating on themselves. Like, as you can see, this top layer is coming off. There used to be a writing here that said Tropicfeel. That was gone in like just a couple days pretty much of wear. So it's really not made to last this part, at least. The other thing that's negative about this is the mesh lets sand through. I mean, of course, because you want it to kind of dry up real quick, but then you get sand inside your shoe, and sand gets all around this thing and even the insole that I've put in, and basically makes it very uncomfortable. So if you go to the beach or something, these might not be the best fit for that activity, but I mean, you can simply take it out, shake it all out, or better yet, rinse it out, because sand is kind of impossible to shake out when it's wet. Another downside of these shoes is that they stink after they've been in the water. Even if it was, you know, crystal clear water like at Cascade Falls here, they still will stink when you get home. They apparently are treated with special material or something. I can't remember what it's called, something to do with lava. And basically they're supposed to not stink up as easily as normal water shoes, but they stink, if not even worse than normal water shoes. So what I do after every water activity, basically wash them through with clean tap water, you know, gets rid of all the sand, all the little stains, well, as much as you can, and just air dry them afterwards. So if you're fine with doing that after every single adventure, then these are good. If that sounds annoying to you, then, I mean, you can't really do water shoes because all of them will stink, including the ones that say will not stink, like these ones. One other part that sucks is this white, soft part all around the shoe. So this is not really durable enough. As you can see, it has like some weird lines in it from wear, you know, from bending and stuff like that. It has some like little holes in it as well, or little kind of corrosion from, again, hitting the rocks. This is very soft material. It also stains pretty badly. Like, as you can see, it's not really white. It's more like, you know, like yellow in color at this point, right? And this is where they have their logo. It doesn't really make their brand look really nice when the part that you put your logo on is kind of yellowing out and does not look pretty over time. One more thing about these laces is they're not extremely strong, and not that they break or anything, they're completely fine. The problem is they can't really hold your foot in too tight or too well. For example, I went whitewater rafting in these shoes, and they worked well for, you know, most of the time, but when I fell overboard, right, and there was a strong current, I almost lost my shoe because half of it came off. I was just holding on by the toes, and it was a miracle that I was able to pull it back onto my foot and also get back into the raft without drowning. One big downside of these shoes is the price. They're quite on the expensive side for what they really are. They're about $150 roughly, and the thing is, you know, it doesn't sound like too expensive compared to other good quality shoes, but the problem is you're comparing these to water shoes. Water shoes at Canadian Tire could be bought for 10 bucks a piece. And then, you know, like if these last only 2 seasons, you can buy, you know, a new pair of Canadian Tire water shoes every single season, and at the end of that only spend 20 bucks versus 150, right? That's kind of the biggest problem with these. But on the other hand, the water shoes will stink up more than these ones. They will not look as good, right, if that's what you care for. They're not going to function as well. They're not going to dry up by themselves like these might while you're just walking around because of, again, the drainage holes, the mesh on the top. And these are more durable for that price, right? They're going to last a little bit longer. And, you know, like nothing is worse than going somewhere on a hike and then messing up your shoe. And now how are you going to get down the mountain, right, with a broken shoe? That's going to be tough. Hiking in these shoes is doable, right? Compared to water shoes that you get at Canadian Tire, that's impossible. They have no support. They have the, you know, the bottom of them have no grip at all compared to these. These are very grippy, very well for that activity. So what are these shoes really good for? Well, basically being around the water, right? So, hopping from rock to rock at a waterfall, or, coming close up to a waterfall, checking it out, cliff jumping, right? Like jumping in the water from like almost anywhere. These are pretty awesome. They're also pretty good at, going to the beach if you're fine with dealing with the sand inside them. And again, all of the above things are great only if you wash them constantly, right? Like after every single use inside the water. If you're just using them, like outside the water for a whole day, I'm sure they wouldn't be stinking because, again, it's the water that's making it really stink. These are meant more for a lighter use. So if you are doing like hardcore hiking and things like that, then I think it's better to step up to a different model, like Canyon or some other ones. You even get more support on the bottom of it, which is even better for hiking. They would be better for activities where you do a lot of walking, a lot of jumping. They have basically a little bit more reinforcement around that part that's actually ripping on these, right, that I showed earlier. And the downside of those, though, is because there's less of that mesh, right, it's gonna take longer to dry. These shoes are a little bit better around the water because these are the lightest, they're the simplest, they're easy to kind of step in, and they will dry a little bit faster than other ones as well. The craziest thing that these shoes do is they let you completely live differently outdoors, right? You're not worried about walking around barefoot, something biting you or stepping on a piece of glass or stepping on some jagged rock, right? You can just freely hop from rock to rock without any worry, and also go into the water without any worry, right? Like if you get your normal hiking shoes wet that are not waterproof, you're not going to be happy about that. And if you even wearing a waterproof hiking shoes, there's some scenarios where you might step in a little bit into a deeper puddle and then boom, your socks are now wet. These ones, no socks to worry about, and your feet are always kind of losing their heat, which is very nice for when you're hiking for many hours and you are too hot. Of course, on a colder day, if you're hiking in winter or something like that, these are not even close to be the best option. But these are really good for summer activities where it's really hot and you want to cool off as much as possible. Paired with swimming shorts that don't really look like swimming shorts, and paired with like a hoodie that's also made for water, paired with a backpack that's waterproof so all your stuff is safe, you can literally just go anywhere and just jump into the water with all of your stuff and surprise everybody. But hey, you don't have to worry about anything, right? Nothing will get wet, or well, nothing that makes sense for it not to get wet will not get wet. And everything that does get wet will dry up real quick afterwards. So it's pretty awesome. It just changes the way your mind thinks, changes the way you're thinking about hiking or those outdoor activities, going to the beach or going to like a nearby waterfall. Just completely changes that. And that's it for the review. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like the video if you really like the content, share it with your friends, family that are into similar, like hobbies, outdoors, water activities, etc., etc. And check out other videos that I have on my channel. I have a few reviews and I have a bunch of videos filmed around Vancouver with this little guy, the Insta360 1x2. It's a 360 camera. There's some really cool videos, including one that's literally filmed upstream from right here at Cascade Falls, and there is a hidden secret slide. That's natural slide. It's not made by anybody. It's literally made out of a rock. So check that video out. I'll link that into the description. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. See you guys.